Going on, everybody? This is ChefDeMarco's or David's stream, and we're here with myself, Ryan. I want to welcome everyone to the first episode of the Overcaffeinated and Overqualified podcast with myself, Ryan, and Chef DeMarco, or David.
Hello, hello.
I'm very excited to finally have the opportunity to commit to having a podcast. This is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and until talking with David about it, haven't had anyone really to fully commit to doing this. So pretty cool to have that going. I know when I brought it up to David, it's definitely something that he jumped on the opportunity for, and also was something that he was thinking about doing for a while, right?
That is the plan. Yes, very interested. I think both of us listen to a lot of podcasts, and to be finally doing one, it's almost like we're one of them, in a sense, which makes me feel good.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I definitely probably don't absorb as many podcasts as I did, because I'm listening to other stuff when I drive now. But podcasts are definitely the way to go to kill time when you're driving, or if you're working on stuff in the background, you can multitask things. Always a very good way to get information on any range of topics, or it's how a lot of people, probably myself included, keeps up with current events or things that are going on.
Right.
Just because it's easier, I guess, to access than watching the news, or sometimes even reading articles and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I'm definitely more of a audio learner than reading learner, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I also do agree. I feel like our generation likes to visualize stuff, but sometimes there's not enough time in the day to watch a video. I find myself listening to videos more or less than watching them, for the sole reason because I got stuff to do, man. I got things to do, and it's easier to listen than to watch a video, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's completely true. I can agree with that. With the times changing and how everyone now, like you said, is just with the generation, everyone's more on the move. You have a lot less time to actually sit down and do something. Whereas when you're moving on the go, you can listen to things and pick stuff up that way. It's a lot more accessible and to a lot more people.
I find it really great. Podcasts basically happened in such a wave that it's, if you're not either podcasting or listening to podcasts, you're missing out on a totally huge spectrum of information, whether that's with whatever you like to do, whether it's gaming, whether it's science, business, self-help. There's so much information out there, and it's just normal people that have insight that you can connect with very easily if they have a podcast.
Yeah, that's very true. It's definitely a way, like you said, a lot of people use it to share their knowledge and skills to other people, and a lot of people they don't have a problem just kind of, I would say you could just sitting there, but they talk about what they know about, and they put their knowledge and everything out there for everyone else to hear. And then the people that are engaged with it, have no problem. Obviously, when you ask them questions or are curious about something, they love to share that information, right, and to share what they know with you.
And I do really like the long form conversation that they have with individuals, and sometimes it could be a group of people. I find that sometimes difficult to get a topic down, but if it's multiple people and they're all having a very educated conversation about anything, I feel like you can get inspiration, and you can find huge strides on basically nailing down a topic, talking about it for an hour or so, and coming to a conclusion as a group. And it's awesome. It really is.
No, yeah, you're right. Group discussion definitely drives a lot, and you can get a lot more information out of things when you have that group discussion, or the just the group atmosphere. You always have different people coming at the same topic with a different outlook, and different outlooks obviously make for a great way to understand anything, and it's a very good way to always be able to get the different perspectives, so you can look at it from either that other perspective or the other person, and seeing that just like helps you understand everything like a little bit more, or gives you like a better understanding, obviously.
Exactly. And I find when you listen to sound bites or, a short clip of anything like a video or live stream, podcast, news, and you hear only just a 30-second to even less than that of a sound bite, you don't get a whole understanding on their feelings toward or emotions toward the topic. You really need to have, everything in there so you can basically visualize how they feel about it and get a more of an understanding, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, like you have, so like so you have the sound clip, and then you want, when you're listening to that sound clip or that bit, you want to see, so how did you get here, you know what I mean, how do you get to like that thought or that feeling, so how did I get here, so you want to see that, and then you want to see, well, now that you have that thought, like, so where do you go from there, like some things, you're looking for that next step, like what does that mean, or you know the discussion around like what is that, where do you go.
Right. I feel like sometimes it paints people in a different way. Also, let's say they say something, controversial, and it really wasn't supposed to be like that, but then someone clips it, posts it on Twitter, and it could make them out to be some sort of animal when in reality they just said that to prove a point about what they think opposite. So it's
Yeah.
kind of weird. It's kind of weird when you have long form content and you get a whole idea out before someone just cuts you off like a clip. It's awesome because then you can really visualize how the person feels, and I feel like that's very important.
That's very true, very true. So with all that being said, just kind of want to keep it semi formal and informal, but just
Right.
introductions. This is David's or Chef's Twitch, so that's pretty cool that he's got us here, and we're gonna be doing the live shows with the webcams and everything every week here live, and then we'll have audio form and video form on every other source that you can think of
Right.
there. Um, So, David and I go way back. We went to high school together, graduated from the same high school. Actually, live around the same area now,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
We weren't gonna say,
Um,
but yeah.
yeah, uh, not gonna say where, but close
Right.
enough. But the I guess the one of the strongest bonds that we have is we worked at Bob Evans for a time during high school together, and we're part of the friend group that we formed there with the people that we worked with and stuff. And
Little over a
um,
year, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of people can agree when you say that since you spend, I'd say, over 50% of your time once you get out of school, whatever, at whatever job or occupation or whatever you choose to do to provide for yourself, those people you spend the most amount of time with. So those people you form the best and the strongest like bonds with, and a lot of those people that you get close to become like your closest friends, and things that you have in common with and stuff like that. So forming a knit friend group with a couple people that we worked with back then, and still being friends with, still having that friend group now, almost probably 5 or 6 years later, is kind of an incredible thing. Especially
Exactly.
since that group was formed at such like a young age, in a sense.
Oh yeah. Uh, it was before I went to college, so I was like 16, and you were probably the same age or older or younger. I
Yeah,
don't know
probably 16,
exactly.
17.
Um, and it's weird because you always have friend groups. I don't mean to segue, but we're gonna segue just a little bit. When you have friend groups and you have different hobbies or whatever, or what they call cliques in high school, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to have so many, or not necessarily so many, but multiple, and then to like get out of high school and then see like what actually happens. I find
Yeah.
that very interesting.
I definitely think, like you said, throughout your time in high school and even college, you are kind of dabbling in a lot of different things. You
Right.
don't quite have ironed out like that one specific thing that you want to like go towards, or even like a couple specific things that you want to go towards. So when you grow with like a friend group or with whatever people, and seeing like the different things that they dabble in, and then seeing kind of where they're ending up, like you said, it's really cool to see. And then obviously the places where you end up is the things that a lot of people obviously have a lot of like knowledge in and are very passionate about. So that
Yeah.
kind of stuff is always drives for like really good conversation, and just like a great time whenever you get to like spend time with people, or hang out, go to parties, or just chill in the Discord and play video games.
Exactly.
So
And I find that Discord's very important, especially to keep up with people. Obviously, social media is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
Discord is very. I find it's almost like it's like a community, but not necessarily like a social media community because you have to be invited or join a Discord
Mm-hmm.
to keep in the loop with your friends. But it helps a lot, in my opinion, to keep up with people.
Yeah, I mean for sure. Like you said, definitely like the internet as a whole definitely has helped. I think helps this generation a lot when it comes to keeping up with people, and I definitely feel that like I feel this way a lot more now, growing up and actually getting into a career and stuff. That um, having the internet, like I used to fear like traveling away for like a job or to like be permanent somewhere else because you lose that connection with like the people, like that group that you call your friends or whatever, like your close group. But
Right.
like you said, with the internet and the way it works now, you can live, half a country away from someone and still communicate with them as though they lived in the same neighborhood just because of how the internet and how all these different things work.
Time zones is a big part of that, but I find that even if they're on like an entirely 12-hour different time schedule, you'll always find time to at least message back, and then in 12 hours when they wake up or whoever, especially across the globe, they'll respond, and it's very cool to see that, especially at least with a couple of my viewers that come in at certain times. Some of them are from the UK and Denmark, and they're on a totally different,
Yeah.
especially Australia. They're like 14 hours ahead, so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of cool to see that, and to connect people like that.
Yeah, exactly. It just provides like a different outlook. Like I said, everything comes back to you get that different outlook from things and the different
Hmm.
perspective, which I love to see and talk with people about. Like it's just so great to see things and experience things from other perspectives. Uh,
Awesome.
so so throughout the time here, we want to be covering a variety of topics and discussions, from gaming and entertainment and news. Like and news obviously would be current events, stuff like that, whether that be in
Yep.
the gaming world, entertainment world, and then to more like more serious and more like I don't want to say like grounded things, but things that I think I'm definitely more passionate about than entertainment and gaming, but business, life, and success.
Yep.
Um, Definitely have drove a lot of conversations with all this stuff like in the past, and the conversations still grow uh, into the present, and they always are flowing. Like life and success is stuff that I'm always thinking about, and I consume a lot of content in regards to that stuff. Uh, it's just like what I like to think about and what I like to go towards. Um, so, just we'll just obviously everyone knows everything kind of about David at this point, but I
Right.
know David, you've been streaming on Twitch for like a month now or so,
Yeah, I just
and
did. My bad. Go ahead.
no, you're good.
So
I
I've been streaming for 31 days today on affiliate, which is like the a little bit above a usual streamer.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, like you have to get some sort of prerequisites before you get affiliate and get a sub badge, and you can get bits and stuff like that. That took me 7 days exactly. Usually, it takes 7 days because one of the prerequisites is to stream for 7 days total. Like not in any consecutive order, but I did it basically. I streamed for like an hour or two each day just so I can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's very interesting. Twitch has been a huge hobby of mine, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, 31 days today.
Yeah, and like I said, that's really cool. Anything when it could like streaming is like an entertainment form. Like
Of
making
course.
YouTube videos or posting on social media, actively posting on social media, I'd say, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So it's really cool when you can get into that stuff and you can be consistent with it. Um, like Twitch is something that streaming is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I've dabbled in it on and off for
As you
like a little
should.
bit, but never consistently, just because I don't know if it's like an engagement thing or what it is. Maybe it's just like I never find myself actually playing something for like very like extended amount of time.
Right.
It's more or less you
Right.
play something for a little bit and then you like watch a couple YouTube videos while you do something else for a little bit.
Right.
So like maybe it's kind of that side of it. Um, but I've always and still kind of now, but not as much I've dabbled in YouTube. I've always loved making YouTube videos. Did that a lot in high school with Call of Duty. Uh, used to love that game. Used to be actually pretty good at it. But obviously, like one thing that I've learned from playing video games is the only way to like actually like be good at video games is you have to play around the same video game, and you have to play it a decent amount to stay good with it, which is something that the longest time I just don't do. I'll play, you know, one
Same.
or two
Yeah.
games for a couple months, get okay at it, you know, learn a lot about the game and know what's going on, and then don't touch it for like 6 months and then come back and have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
So definitely like a thing there with that, but it's cool.
And I find that we have the same kind of interests with video games.
Mhm.
Obviously, we both play different games, but some of the times we play the same games, to be honest. And that's also why the friend group we have is also so tight knit, is because
Mhm.
we all play video games together, and we stay connected on that level as well.
Yeah. Like, you know, just like the other day, you know, playing League together, you know.
Yeah.
You play Overwatch a lot. I don't play it a lot, but I play it, you know, I know
It's
of it.
more
and
of
know
it's more of an obsession now, to be
Yeah.
honest. I have more. I mean, I mean, I don't know about if you want to talk about this, but Steam hours, Counter Strike. To be honest,
Mhm.
I played that for a lot when I was younger, or at least a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But
Oh
other,
yeah, for sure. For
What's up?
sure, like the amount of time you can put into games and stuff like that, like at least you see you have a lot of hours from Counter Strike. So I just looked up a couple weeks ago. Probably the game that I play the most of is RuneScape, just like collectively
the
and
new
everything.
one
So
though,
like,
right?
yeah, like
Not
or
old school?
from whenever you started playing,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started playing that game after Old School came out, so I never dabbled in. Like I never played it, so I never
Yeah.
went back to dabble in it when it came out again, if that makes sense.
I totally get it. I totally get it.
So uh we can lead more into like, you know, background and stuff like that as topics and stuff discussion comes up, but I wanted to get into the two things that we want to talk about today, and the first one is how to make things happen while you're in your 20s. So I'm 23.
Bingo.
David, I think you're 23, right?
Yep.
You should be 23, yeah. So
23.
yeah. So not even mid 20s yet age wise, but I definitely feel for myself, and I don't know if you feel this kind of the same way, David, but I definitely think that for this point, even though I always, when I think about it and talk about it, I always say I could do more, but I have done an incredible amount of things in this short span, and definitely feel like I
Can you
have.
elaborate on that?
So I'm 23. I moved out of my parents' house right after high school that summer. Didn't go to college, but started working full time. Kind of like saved money.
Mm-hmm.
Got to have first-hand experience of the living on your own thing. One thing that I definitely am very passionate about, and I feel very strongly about, is today's generation, our generation almost, because of how long people are living at home with their parents and how a lot of people nowadays don't get like kicked out. You could
Too
say
long.
like in
Too long.
like in our parents' generation, where it was like 18 and you're gone, like see ya, I don't
you
care
get
what
kicked
you're doing.
out, basically.
Yeah, but you're out of here. So I feel very strongly that a lot of people, even at our age now, just don't have the fullest understanding of what it actually is to like be on your own and live on
Yep.
your own.
Yep. I agree.
Even people that, so I've had a house for like 3 years now, and I've had roommates the whole time. They're only
Right.
paying, you know, like however much rent a month. You're not having to deal with maintenance things or paying the 6 bills you have to pay to keep the house going.
On a
You know
monthly
what I mean?
on a monthly basis, yeah.
Yeah. And so unless you're actually paying those things, you don't get to see where all that money's going or how much that money adds up,
Right.
especially at like certain times of the year and stuff like that. Like
I can totally imagine.
whenever you're living, I would say at home whenever you're living for free, have the ability, whether that be at home or with anybody, or if you're paying like a low amount in rent and in the terms of like sharing a room at a place,
Yeah.
you're not actually responsible for the overall
The upkeep.
thing. Yeah, the overall upkeep of
Yeah.
things. You don't get that full picture of what it's actually like to be on your own and have to like
Exactly.
be responsible with everything.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. And like you said the upkeep, or what we described as the upkeep for the house. And sometimes when you don't have that and you have all this extra income and you don't know what to do with it, you buy
Mhm.
things. I feel like people buy too much, like too many
Mm-hmm.
things, because things could be, clothing, just everything, and it just sometimes
Yeah.
feels like you think it's a good investment to buy,
Mm-hmm.
that shirt at Target or whatever, but in reality, if you save that or use it in a different way, like an investment, you could get more
Mm-hmm.
out of it than just having a shirt for a year or two until it is too small or you rip it or spill coffee on it.
Yeah.
So it's in a weird way different. And then for me, with what I have to basically finance, I guess you can say, for my personal life, car, college tuition, it's
Mm-hmm.
different too, because
Yeah.
I don't see mortgage, I don't see electric, I don't see internet, because all that's included in my rent.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, I do pay for it, but like it's only percentages at that point.
Yeah, it's a part of just a base number that you have. It's not
Exactly.
individual numbers.
And also, I find sometimes when I think about money, or just finances in general, for basically anything, whether it be, going out one night or just
Mm-hmm.
paying for car insurance, it's in a different like level in your head, where you
Mm-hmm.
kind of weigh them out in a different way. Like you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, I got to do this, but I want to do this. So you
Mm-hmm.
think about it in a different way entirely. Like your whole mental psychology changes depending on what you're paying for, or like, vice versa.
Yeah, I definitely see that. So like you said, when you see things, right? And so even though having roommates saved me with having a house, when I got this house, it was intended to have like split costs with it basically.
Right.
Um, and then the person that was going to split those costs, that all ended and didn't happen. So
Right.
I would have had to have taken on the full cost of it. Now, granted, I could have did it with where I was working, but it would have been one of those things where you're literally living, you could say like paycheck to paycheck, where you don't have any extra money really. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nothing extra that you can do. Like
Right.
if you're gonna actually not go in the negative. So
Totally
um,
understandable.
seeing that, and then so like having roommates and stuff, I've had more disposable income, like you said,
Disposable
and
income, perfect word.
yeah, so I've had more disposable income than I would have had in that case. So over the years, I've definitely moved forward towards progress in financial goals
Mm-hmm.
and paying things off and stuff, but definitely not as well as I should have or could have.
Right.
And that's obviously something that, like you said, like when you do something, you're thinking more in the now instead of like the long term kind of thing. So like
Mm-hmm.
throughout all that time, I'm still paying off, like, we'll just say credit cards and stuff like that. But and then I have all this other money, but instead of taking that other money and putting it somewhere else right away, whether that be in an investment account or just setting it aside, it kind of just would sit there aside, and then I'd be like, oh, I have this money. Oh, what can I could do this, or I want to get this now, so I got this instead of I didn't really need that, but I got it because I had that
You
money there,
wanted
and you
it.
could see that you could see that
You
you saw that
wanted
you
it.
had that money there.
Yeah.
Um,
I think a lot of people that I've talked to, at least they always tell someone to provide a safety net.
mm-hmm.
Safety net, whether that's 2K, 3K, 1,000, 500. I always think that people always tell me, uh, as an advice standpoint, to have a safety net.
Yeah.
But then some people have a huge safety net, which I don't think you need $9,000 as a safety net. What are you? What's gonna? Your car might totally die, but it's not gonna take 9,000.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, hopefully, you finance your car, or at least do something of that nature, because you don't need that much money as a safety net. You really want to invest it or start paying off whatever you have to pay off quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, higher interest first, and then down.
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing, like, I understand like your point on the safety net. And I'm definitely a firm believer of having a safety net. Right now, I find $2,000 to $3,000 for me is a comfortable safety net,
Of course.
but I would
I
like to grow
totally
that.
agree.
And I think one of the reasons why people like to have a higher safety net is because, at least when I hear safety nets, and the people that I hear about talk about it, it's just like that safety net should include like if you had no income whatsoever, right? So
Right.
if I were to lose my job tomorrow, how many months could I survive with my current living expenses and bills and everything, and like that's the amount of money you want to have for your
Mm-hmm.
safety net. And a lot of people find like 3 to 6 months worth of that income to equal a good safety net. And
Exactly.
let's
Yeah.
just say for me, then 6 months worth of regular income would be about that'd be roughly like probably 12,000 ish dollars, maybe we'll say,
Right.
for 6 months of living expenses
Everything.
without any income.
And that's including
So
food and like other stuff as well.
yeah, so that's a lot of money to have as a safety net,
Definitely.
right?
Totally agree.
Now, when I plan of my safety net, I'm not planning on losing my job tomorrow because that shouldn't happen. You
No,
know,
that should
there's
be your
that one
first
percent.
priority
Yeah,
to
there's that
keep
one
a
percent
job.
chance. There's that 1% chance that something could happen with my job,
Hmm.
but that 1% chance would be something like out of my control.
Right. Totally.
So
Totally. Agreed.
the $3,000 safety net just covers like if something were to happen to my car or I'd have to get something fixed on my house right away. That's like major concern,
Right.
stuff like that. And then you can work to build back into that safety net like clause.
Exactly.
So it's a good thing to have, and you should always definitely have it. But definitely something that I've probably done just a couple times is you should never take from that safety net. And I've done that and then had to put back into it. The worst thing you do
Hmm.
is take from it to help like pay for something somewhere and then have to put back into it because you're
Yeah.
working in reverse then. You know what I mean? Like you already had that, then you're pulling from it to help yourself. You think to help yourself out, but then you're not helping yourself out because then you don't have that safety net that you had.
Right. And I find that even if you have to pull from it, you should always replenish it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, don't feel too. And obviously, I don't know how you feel about this, but at least how I feel, don't feel like you're hurting yourself, because in reality, all you're doing is you need it, so you take from it. As long
Yeah.
as you know to replenish it, it's fine. Don't think about it as a bad thing, though. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, don't do it if you don't have to, obviously. But if you really need to, like, let's say it's tight and you got to do something,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even think twice about it. But
Yeah.
as long as you don't hurt yourself or don't, think less of yourself because you need to do that. Because in reality, that's your money. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You could go gamble it all right now. But in reality, I think people think differently like us, to have that safety net, to just be sure
Mm-hmm.
that nothing can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It provides like a sense of security, and
Exactly.
I think you can never like buy a sense of security with things, but if you know every day that when you wake up that if something were to happen, you're not thinking something's going to happen, but if something were to happen today that would be like a negative thing, I'm covered. It's fine. I don't have to worry about
Right.
something bad happening because I'm covered if it were to happen.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm not worried about it, because if it were, it'd be fine. It's
Of
covered,
course. Of
squared
course.
away.
Uh,
I liked how you said you said pulling from that and like making it. Don't let that like affect you and think you're hurting yourself,
right.
because if you need
Don't
it, you
hurt
need
your
it.
self confidence.
Yeah. So like definitely throughout the years, I felt like I've hurt myself by taking it from there.
Mm-hmm.
But then overall, when you think about things in like a full circle, like you're thinking about what you've done over the past however long you saw where it's gone,
Right.
a lot of it can be considered investments in itself and things. Like whenever I buy kind of like weird expensive, I don't want to even say like expensive things, but like things for my house, like I've committed to investing in a house. This is a discussion for another time, but I wanted to talk about at one point the thoughts between like renting and leasing and then owning things is something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially in terms of like
Right.
cars and
And I could
housing.
weigh in on that as well.
Yeah. So just without going into that, I've committed to investing in like where I live and stuff like that. So just upkeep, and then everything that I buy for my house is like an investment in it. So
Right.
when I buy the cool like hue colored LED lights that are semi expensive, it's an investment in itself because I'm gonna have those for 10 years, and I'm not gonna be buying light bulbs for 10 years, right?
Right.
So
Those do last that long,
spending,
do they?
I think it's like 5 to 10. They might even have like like a lifetime
Regardless,
warranty,
yeah.
but the LED lights last forever. Like it's crazy.
Interesting.
So like you're spending however much money now that's semi expensive and it looks bad, but if you think about it, you're not buying any new lights then of 10 to 12, 10, let's say $20 a new light bulb every 6 months or something
Yeah.
for a pack. That money adds up, and eventually you're paying into yourself, and you're gonna break even or come full circle with it or whatever.
Right.
So, um, like I finally this year bought like a TV, but I got it on sale and it was only like $400 to $500 for a 65-inch TV. So that was like a steal, right?
Oh, of course.
That was
Yeah.
like a good investment because you didn't even pay full price for it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
like that.
And the
Um,
lifespan on TVs, depending on what you get, I've had mine since I was like, the one I use, like, that I've used forever.
mhm.
I've had it forever. I'm going to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And it's a flat screen, 40, 50-inch TV. And I've taken it to, places I moved to. And I have it here
Mhm.
now, where I live currently. And I don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest. I'm more of
Mhm.
a PC computer consumer, at least for the
Yeah.
internets. But I do find myself laying in bed sometimes watching a YouTube video. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I go to bed. I put the sleep timer on. I don't leave it on all night. I hate sleeping with the TV. But
Yeah.
if I do end up getting tired, I put a little sleep timer on it, and it will turn off within like 30 minutes if I fall asleep
Mhm.
anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. So like, and then like another thing with that is definitely one thing that I'm passionate about. I don't really preach it because I don't think there's really any of my like friends, like in your friends group things besides like
Right.
you and maybe like one or two of the people that actually have like, full-time jobs now and are actually like moving in that future direction, like you could say financially or whatever. So one thing that I'm very passionate about is whenever you save money, whether it be for investing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you want to obviously live off of less income than you make.
Of course. Yeah, you've told
So
me
right
that.
now I live roughly off of like 70 to 80% of what I make.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just like, so in theory. So whenever I think about like, oh, I took money from this account or whatever to like pay for this. And you look at it like, oh, I don't know if I should have did that like a year after you did it. And then it's like, well, it's okay because for the most part, pretty much percentage is going into, um, into separate accounts, like so you're not seeing it go there.
Right.
And then if you're utilizing a big thing for like the long-term financial gain is if your company, if wherever you work has a 401k plan, or even if they don't,
And you're
and
paying into it.
you can put money in a private, like a personal 401k plan or
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big thing to do because you're taking money right off the top every time
Mm-hmm.
and you never see it. You know what I mean?
Right. You should almost act like it's not there
Yeah, exactly. Like
in a
that's when
way.
you live off of 70% of or 80% of what you make, and you have 10% going to 401k, 10% going into this account, and then 10% going into that account. You're never touching that money. You're never seeing it
Right.
almost.
And
And the best thing you can do is never see it.
exactly. And I think we should put a disclaimer on at least these topics. We're not a financial expert of any kind. We're basically just talking out of, what would you say, experience, or at
Yeah,
least
I'd
research
say
that we've made on a personal basis.
experience, personal experience,
So
personal
disclaimer there.
knowledge, things
Yeah.
that we believe in, and things that like we think work.
Mm-hmm. Through our life experiences, we've
Mm-hmm.
basically just learned this. We don't. I mean, obviously, I read into a couple things, at least for finances and stuff like that. Uh, but I didn't go to school for that. Books mainly, Google searches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
like you said, both of us, I'm in no way like a financial advisor or anything like that.
Right. That's what I was trying to
But
get at. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but saying that I'm 23 years old, the only debt that I have to my name is a mortgage and a
Right.
car payment. I think that's pretty good. And then to
Yeah.
say that I have plenty of money in the bank, that if something were to happen, I'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to say that I kind of have an idea of what makes sense and what I think you could do because of my situation. My situation speaks for what I talk about or what I preach.
Right, and I think this is
You
a
know
good
what I mean?
segue to talk about. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to get into this today, but about decisions, basically in life, to either go to college or not. And I
Yeah,
find,
this is
yeah,
good.
I find that when we parted ways at Bob's, man, it was super weird because I left to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
and you eventually, I think, trained to be a manager at Bob Evans. Was that at the
Yeah.
time? Because we
Yeah.
kind of lost contact after that, because I went to college. But then, you were obviously always one to tell me that you weren't going to go to college for the sole reason because you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to elaborate on that? What was your mindset after high school,
So,
I guess you could say?
like, definitely, I even still believe it a lot now that you don't to go to college to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
obviously in the world, and to make millions of dollars. You know,
Yeah.
the knowledge and the ability to do that without that is there,
Right.
but you have to be able then to find that opportunity to make that happen without that, and you have to be willing to put forth the work and effort to do it. um so I became a manager and have management experience, and I'm very passionate about management, people,
Right.
leading and stuff like that. That's something I'm very passionate about, and I love doing that. um so I would definitely like turn to a management position in a heartbeat if the opportunity presented itself somewhere. But one thing that I've learned from my current place of employment is, regardless of experience, a lot of things for like organizations and stuff like that, just I feel like it's a generation thing almost
Yeah. Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
This is only in certain places, obviously. In certain instances, you can find opportunities where this isn't applicable,
Mm-hmm.
but in a lot of places nowadays it is applicable. But you have to have some sort of formal education in a lot of corporations' eyes nowadays
Of
to
course.
even be accepted
A
for
piece
things.
of
It
paper
doesn't
that says that
matter.
you're qualified.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
Right.
if you have X amount of experience doing something,
Right.
uh, especially when you're younger. The easiest way to get ahead when you're younger is to have that formal education and then experience besides that.
Yeah.
So, with saying that, something that I've learned, and this was actually, I thought about this after listening to one of the big topics going into the next election year is the big college debt problem, and how
Oh
college
snap.
debt is one of those things that, regardless, even if you die, it's the one thing that
You can
will always
actually
have to get paid
you
off.
can claim bankruptcy and it's still there.
Yeah, you still have to pay it.
Isn't that
So
insane?
it's a crazy thing. And
It is
the,
crazy.
the one thing that I think that I'm very passionate about now and that I've learned is, I've only worked for 2 companies in my lifetime so far. I've learned a
Yeah.
lot of things from both of them. I've
Hmm.
loved both of those companies and both of those jobs while doing them. And so the company at now, I really enjoy what I do there, and I like the company, what it stands for. So I want to move
Right.
up and progress in that company, right? Now, obviously, I have real world experience when it comes to management, so I could fill one
Yeah.
of those roles if it came open. But like I
Hmm.
said, the prerequisite of having that formal education is a major setback for someone of my age,
Yeah.
because I don't have that 10 to 15 years of experience within the industry or company even to take up that opportunity if it when it arises.
I could
But
tell you pardon me. I could tell you one thing. The I guess the manager training that I received in school it was more or less like people skills.
hmm
You know what I mean? Like you basically learn about people skills and how to handle situations that
yeah,
arise. It's not necessarily about managing. I mean, obviously, if you have like a lot to do in your company and you have to manage your time and manage people's time,
hmm
a lot of what I learned was, I mean, I have school books dedicated to people skills.
yeah.
In all reality, it's what it
No,
is. You know?
you're 100% right. If there's one thing that being a manager and everything it taught me, it was that managing is about people.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've learned throughout all my experience, the 2 companies I've been with, and all the managers that I've had when I was a manager worked with, was
Mm-hmm.
the best managers is the ones who get along with people and that know that the only way that they succeed is for their people to succeed. Um,
And you should look at it
this
like
is
that, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it's a management and people skills is a topic and conversation all on its own. Definitely something cool to do in the future because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I'm very passionate about it. But going back to what I said about what I was saying about going to school and stuff, so because I want to progress rather rapidly in my company, the easiest way to do it is to get an education.
Right.
And
You
a
told
lot
me
of
about that.
companies nowadays, and mine in particular, offers educational assistance for going to school. So
Right.
they pay for your college tuition, and you only have to work for them 2 years after you graduate. So I've been working
Interesting.
there for roughly 3 years now. So, and I said I like my job and I like what I do. I like the company and I like
Mm-hmm.
the different opportunities that are there. So knowing that I like that, this year I'm going to school, to college, and they're paying for it, and I'm not paying for it. So I'm going to be getting a free college education within,
Right.
we'll say, probably 5 years, because I'm only going like part time because I still have to work full time.
Of course. Yeah.
But you're
Makes
getting
sense.
that college education, and then after you get that your degree or whatever, you have, I don't want to say guaranteed placement and whatever like job within the company that you want,
Mm-hmm.
but you applied it. You, as long as you're obviously a good employee and you have good standing now and you're doing things within the company, once you get that degree, it's a jump start to wherever you want to go
It's like a
in
exponential
that.
growth from there.
Yeah, it's, and you're doing it, you're getting it for free.
Oh,
um
totally. Yeah. Which is a perk of the job. And I find that when I made the decision to go to college right out of high school, and it
mhm,
was literally 6 months after high school, I went to college, and I went to a informal, like culinary school, down in kind of upstate where we live anyway.
mhm,
um, and it was very nice, good experience. But now leaving there and having to, I guess, pay back. I mean, I obviously pay back tuition on a monthly basis. It
yeah,
makes you think about, and especially from the people I've asked in the industry that I work in, which is the restaurant industry, there
mhm,
was really no need to go to college. I mean, to be honest with you, I learned so much, and I love everyone I came in
yeah,
contact with teachers. But I
mhm,
think the people that didn't go to college, they don't understand that when they say, "Oh, you don't need to go to college," it's different. You know what I mean? Like you
mhm.
learn so much more than learning practically at a restaurant. In my case, obviously for you, I think you're going for business, right?
uh yeah,
Or
it's
what do
like
you say?
kind of like there's business stuff in there.
So you would
The
learn from people you work with that are up on the upper echelon level of the
Yeah,
company, I would assume, right?
mhm,
For me, when you learn about cooking, when you work in a restaurant, you're learning from literally the dishwasher to the exec chef. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And for me as well, when I was working as a sous chef, which I do now, you manage people,
yeah,
like practically, and then on like a mental level as well, to keep everyone's morale high,
mhm,
confidence. I'm not one person to demean anyone, and I believe you're definitely not either, because you don't want to have that relationship with your coworkers
yeah,
that you're just basically dogging them in a way,
mhm,
in a very casual term, dogging. I just try to be the nicest person I can when I'm at a manager position, in my opinion, and act like they're kind of like family in reality.
yeah, exactly. The atmosphere that you create, especially if you're in charge, like you want that to feel like a family almost.
Mm-hmm.
That opens up like big thing is communication. You want them to feel that they can talk to you about anything and that you can talk to them. You know, there should never be an instance when you're a manager that you shouldn't be, you should always be able to ask anyone to do something and that person be willing to do it because of
Right.
the respect they have for you and then the respect that you have for them. Um, and that's one thing that I definitely coming from being a manager, that I learned firsthand. At the beginning of it, definitely couldn't ask anyone to do anything,
Why do
but
you find
by the
that?
end, when I left that job, I felt comfortable asking anyone to do something and knowing that they would do it for me.
Oh, you gain the respect.
Yeah,
Uh, so I
I think a lot.
find talk boss. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, I think part of it is you have to earn like respect from people, and the easiest way that I found to do that was actually like doing things. You have to be an active manager
Right.
by example, regardless of what you're doing.
Yes.
Um, and that's one of the best ways to like get respect from people. But also, just the other big thing is just listening. You know, you have to. People skills is all about listening. You know what I mean? You can't.
Right. Hear their complaints and then try to fix them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to hear people. If you don't hear them, then they'll never hear you, and they'll never want to hear you. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Completely. And I've only had a couple times where I've had to check it at the door, in kind of like a passive aggressive, almost aggressive way. Because sometimes you kind of have to do that with people that are, especially that are kind of like cocky in a way.
Hmm.
If they just will never listen to authority, or they're not going to, so you kind of have to be a little aggressive. There's nothing wrong with that, but I tend to not do that because then the atmosphere, like you said, is not a friendly or professional atmosphere.
Hmm.
You're kind of like almost um, authoritarian would be the
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to feel like that. And
Yeah. You don't
I
want to be
don't like
you
that.
don't want to have an authoritarian environment. Like,
No.
I think part of a misconception from some people that don't understand the importance of people skills, or even honestly, what I think is a lot of people think that, it's just like, oh, I'm the manager, so when I tell you to do something, you're gonna do it. It's like,
Right.
yeah, it really doesn't work because, you know, let's just say you think that works with everybody, but then no one's doing what you tell them to do. I th- that reflects on you, not on them.
Oh, entirely.
If the group of people aren't going to do what you tell them to do, that's you, not them. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
multiple people saying, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that, or the way you're saying that isn't right. So neither of us are going to do that. That reflects on you, not on them.
Mm-hmm. So I think what we started to talk about before we went on a little tangent was about the decision for you to pretty much work instead of go to college, and not in like
Yeah.
a negative way at all. We were just talking about like topics and what my decision was and what your decision was and why.
Yeah.
From there, I would like to say, I don't think everyone needs to go to college. Obviously, we talked about that.
Yeah.
But I think if you're not going to go to college, you need to have some sort of formal learning education that you put on your own self, whether it's
Yeah.
reading books, researching
Yeah.
online, mentoring, or not a
Mhm.
mentoring, but be a mentee, I think is the correct term.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
To a mentor, and I find that very important as well. And I find that most of my bosses or employers were my mentor in a way,
Yeah.
in a positive way.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right with that. Like I said, it doesn't, regardless of if you go to school or not, there's definitely a path and ways for you to make it and make it succeed more than you could ever imagine. But you have to be able to find the opportunity and then work towards that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like you're not just gonna find a mentor. You know what I mean? You have to seek it out and actually be looking for it. You know what I mean? You have to talk with people. You have to meet people. You have to be willing to work crazy hours to make it happen. And the same thing's true even when you get that formal education. I think the big thing with going to college is you have formal experience then. You know what I mean? You have that degree, you have that thing. You're not saying that you know any more than someone who doesn't have it, but you're saying that, I've studied this stuff, I have a little bit more of an understanding of this, and that. You've looked at it from the other side besides the experience side of the coin.
Right. And
If it can be
especially if you get someone with the wisdom and like older experience, like we talked about, they're gonna tell you basically what you need to know to get where they're at, and then some. Obviously, the whole point of like the art of basically anything is to surpass your mentor, and then that basically means your mentor succeeded. Your mentor trained you enough to go beyond him. In this case, there's a lot of examples. I need to fact check most of these, but let's say basically anyone that surpasses their mentor and then leads another person to do the same thing, it's like a ladder, man. The person on basically the last one to go up beyond their mentor is the one that's going to succeed, but everyone wins. You know what I mean? Everyone wins from that.
Yeah, you're getting value from all the different prongs, and you're providing value at all the different.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. So like, I was thinking, so you're talking about, I definitely think one thing too, when we talk about college and stuff like that, today's generation, this is a big thing. This goes back to the whole debt thing, is that a lot of people that go to school and get this formal education that is very expensive now and provides no extra benefit than it did before when it was like less expensive. People are getting rushed into making a decision basically to choose a field of study for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Basically. And you don't even know yet if that field that you're going to study, if you actually enjoy that field, like that field, right? Like from working in the food industry and then in the management in food industry, I learned that I liked management, not so much the food industry, right?
Okay. Right.
So, I still, remiss to the days of being, a grill cook, and
on a
I
Sunday morning.
kick ass at that. That's great,
Right.
Good times. Still love it, but it's not something that I would want to do forever.
Again,
You know what I mean? It's
or
not
forever,
yeah, it's not an atmosphere that I'd like to be in forever. And now I like the manufacturing side of an occupation and stuff, because that's the one I'm in now, and I still like management, so there's opportunity there. and also being in like manufacturing, there's other opportunities there too that aren't even direct management. But because I've come to like the field itself, the opportunities are more abundant because of just the field. Whereas management is a specific part of a field. Whereas when you like the general idea of the field as manufacturing, you can go into multiple different areas of that.
From that, you're saying?
Yeah, from that, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. So
So
I guess we could both talk about how much or what we like, basically about um, our jobs. I guess you could say, and
yeah.
what that brings us in a pleasure standpoint, and that pleasure being you have so much time to do other stuff. I find that with my job, I have a lot more time specifically
Mm-hmm.
to work in the mornings when I work in the mornings anyway, to do other things that I find enjoyable for other avenues.
Yeah.
And you probably can say the same thing with time management is very
Mm-hmm.
important, especially when you have a
Yes.
job. Like you
Yeah.
said, 50%. You said 50% time spent at work.
Yeah, I'd say 50% or more. Like half your
Right.
time in your life is dedicated. Your job is a big part of whatever you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So when you find that equilibrium of work and basically time to enjoy whatever, whether
Mm-hmm.
that be doing what we're doing right now, which is like free form talking about said topics, is great. And obviously, I think you do YouTube now, or like you said, you used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right?
Used
So
to.
we're doing
Yeah.
YouTube
Yeah.
right now, technically as well,
Doing other
um,
things besides just working.
but also getting enjoyment out of that as well, and
Yeah.
learning through this long form content
Mm-hmm.
and consuming content on our off time as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Like definitely. I could start. You said a little bit there. Just outside of work, the thing I love most about my job is the department I work in for my job. It's a very like, I'd say free form compared to other places. There's a lot of flexibility with the schedule. Just the kind of work that I do itself is like almost like free form.
Mm-hmm.
I like the analogy that a buddy of mine that used to work with uses a lot when he compares like this job to like our old job. It's kind of like being in KP at Bob Evans, where you kind of get to do things at your own time. I have to do X amount of things, but
Right.
I can do them. I can do this first and then this and then that. You know what I mean? You
Right.
choose when you get to do things. As long as you get all those things done, you're good to go.
Yeah, and I find that exclusively for the job I do now.
Hmm.
Let's say you have a wedding on Saturday and Friday. You have all week to basically purchase, or I guess you could say purchase, prep, and then finally do it on the day of the event, which is exciting. And you have a lot of time. You're not rushed to get it done that day specifically, unless you obviously don't manage your time well. And then you have to do it that day. But it's awesome. And I love what I do, and I'm pretty sure you could say the same thing, and it's great.
Yeah, like I said, I agree. I love what I do, and the free form, you could almost say that of like you said, to have time to do things and plan it out. So you're not rushed.
Yeah.
It's just great, and that helps with like that work-life balance, because then you're never really worried about work. You're never really like dreading getting up and having to go to work. And then when you're not there, you're happy as well. You know what I mean?
Right. So do you find
That
that the free form like workplace is the best, or do you feel when you're obviously we both agreed that the free form, but do you find a little more enjoyment out of the structured stuff as well, or how do you feel about that when it's like regimented? You know what I mean? Probably like what
I
your
don't,
friends do, like the other positions. I don't know if you do the same thing that what they
I don't
do,
know.
or
It's a little bit different, but I don't know if
right.
like a lot of it is very regimented. I don't think any of the jobs that I've really worked you could say are like regimented. You know what I mean? Like you
Okay.
have to do something right now.
Right.
Even at Bob's, I don't
Right.
think if anything was like right now. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
It's like I don't. I don't know if you want to say it's the kind of work, and the kind of work is just like easy for you know the work you're doing.
Right.
I don't know if it's because I learned that, or I definitely felt that being in a management position, especially in food service, at least the kind of food service I was in, it can be very stressful. So
Mm-hmm.
finding something that's zero stress, which is like where I work now, zero stress. But a lot of that comes with like the free
Yeah.
form of it. You know what I mean? Like there's no, oh, I have to do this right now, and if I don't do it right
Right.
now, the world's gonna burn down. There's not
Right.
that really doesn't exist.
That's a funny way
Kind
to put
of.
that. Which
So
I agree. Same with me, honestly. It's awesome. it feels good. You feel more confident in your job, and
Mm-hmm.
I think when you like what you do, man, and have passion
Yeah.
for it, or at least you have passion for what they work for, your company, and
Yeah,
then
you
you
have
work
to.
for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely a big thing too. You could say, you said about like working for. That's another thing that I'm definitely passionate. I don't know if you've ever heard of. What's it called? Start with why.
Start with why.
Yeah,
Interesting. No, what is
it's
that?
a book by Simon Sinek. I think that's his last name.
Interesting. You're gonna have to
Uh,
link me that.
yeah, very good book, and it's just talks one of the big philosophies and things that he talks about is the whole idea behind like companies and why anyone does whatever they do is because you're doing it because of why you do it. You know what I mean? If you like
Interesting.
your company and the company has a good why, a good direction going for it, you want to work for them. You want to go
Mm-hmm.
to work for them because you believe in what they believe in, and you're working towards like a common thing almost
Right.
because of that belief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you like what they're working for, you want to work towards it.
Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. Was it more of like a motivational book, or was it?
I
You said
definitely.
start with why. When I think of start with why, it almost feels like a having emotion towards something. Because why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Is
Yeah,
that
I
basically
don't.
what it's?
Yeah, I guess it talks about like emotion. I don't think it's definitely more like a fact. I don't know if factual is the right word, but like a fact thing. You know what I mean? Like
Interesting.
over like I'm motivating you to do this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like this is why companies do this and why the companies that do this succeed while the other companies don't, kind of thing.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
but definitely a good. I think there's actually a TED talk with him where he talked about that too. But very interesting concept, and that's something another thing that I'd love to talk about in the future. Definitely something that I'm
Right. Definitely.
passionate about.
We'll make a note about that after. Did you
Um,
want to round up basically the finances in your 20s? Let's go back to that. I
yeah.
know we
So.
talked about getting a job, obviously dream
Mhm,
job, hopefully for some people, own
mhm,
place, getting married. Um, you said you own, obviously you own a house. You went a little different route than I did with path of life.
mhm.
And now that I am out of college and I do rent, I do not own. I'm basically. I think some people like to think as I'm paying for someone else's house. Do
Mhm.
you agree with that when you're renting from someone?
It depends. I think I kind of used to think that, but at the same time, when I think of all the expenses that I pay on everything, right?
Right.
And I think about how much the people that have lived with me charge per rent, it has always been a little under half, probably, of the total expenses, if not less than that.
Right.
So, whenever the big thing with renting or leasing is, let's say you're paying $400 a month, right?
Yeah.
And if you were to own the house, it'd be like, we'll say 900 or 1,000. So
Right.
that's $600 of money you're saving every year by not owning. So what are you doing with that $600? You know, are you saving it to eventually get your own place? Are you saving it to invest it in something? What are you doing with that extra money?
Right.
If you're doing something productive with it, then that's good. If you're
Right.
not, then maybe you shouldn't be renting because you're just wasting your money. You know what I mean?
Okay. I totally
Almost just
agree.
like, I guess not thinking about it like that. If you're ever in a situation where you feel like you're wasting money, you just need to, I guess you need to find ways to put that money to use, whether it's
Right.
investing, whether it's owning something for like a future investment kind of thing.
So what about if you had like, let's say car payment and you're renting, for the sole reason to obviously live on your own in a way,
Hmm.
not with your parents, but
Yeah.
then also have like a supplemental income to also live on as well. Like let's say, obviously tuition, car payment, car insurance,
Hmm.
phone, let's say, credit card or whatever bills, and you don't
Hmm.
basically have enough to get that upper edge to own a house, but you have enough to rent a house.
Hmm.
So, obviously you have your safety net regardless of your situation, hopefully. But then you also have all those things you have to buy into, and you're only missing, and obviously I think for a house you need house insurance, and you're paying for utilities as well on your own.
Hmm.
Obviously for you have roommates as well, but let's say you have all these things and you have a house payment or a mortgage and utilities and stuff, and then that would put you over the edge of
Yeah.
living without it, living above your means, I guess is the current term.
I
What do you feel
definitely
about
think
that?
I definitely think that doing it solo initially, let's say you, for example, let's say you want to buy a house, right?
Yeah.
For someone like you said, who's out of college, right? You have tuition you're paying for your car, your insurance, um, right? So that's like three big things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big high number of interest rates on some of those things, and that's a lot of money. And then if you were to throw in a mortgage to that, along with like added utilities and stuff like that, like doing that solo is probably not a good investment. It's probably not a good idea because that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of things that you're paying for
Right.
that you don't need to pay for.
Right.
But let's say,
You're renting till you
obviously,
finish one of them. Could that
yeah, you
be an
can do that.
answer?
Like that's a
Right.
big way definitely to progress towards like a financial goal. Is you always want, like you mentioned it earlier, pay off highest interest rate things first. College tuition is obviously one of the things with the highest interest rate.
Yeah.
So you'd want to start paying that off first, and the easiest way to pay something off first is you have to make your minimum payment, but then you always have to make more than your minimum payment.
Right.
So we talked about $400 for rent. If you had a mortgage, it'd be $1,000, so you have that $600. So every month, that extra $600, where should that be going then? Into your
other one.
tuition payment,
Right.
right?
Totally
And
agree.
that's extra. You're paying extra. So by putting in extra, you're paying towards the principal, and over time, the principal is going to go down without paying the interest, and that's how you save money in a sense,
Right.
right? And then that helps you get towards that goal of then having a house.
Yes. Ultimately.
Yeah. So just real quick, back to the kind of thought I had, but let's say one thing that I've noticed a lot, I'm sure you could even say this too. I know I've talked to my one buddy about this. Do you see I don't know if it's like, but a lot of people that we went to high school with and stuff like that are, out of school now, but a lot of people are getting married and stuff,
Oh yeah.
And
Very interesting.
So
Very
relationships, whether that's like boyfriend, girlfriend, or then marriage, or even roommates.
We
it's
should
a
save a
great
lot
way.
of this for another episode, but yeah, talk briefly about that. Yeah.
So it's just a great way to think of if you're splitting that cost with someone. So like I
Right.
said, when I got my house
Entirely.
initially, the initial thing was a 50-50 split. Therefore, I'm still saving a shit ton of money because,
Well, didn't you get a third
Uh,
roommate at one point?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were 3 people living here, so I had 2 roommates and then me.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
But
So wouldn't that help even more for you?
it does. But like I said, it's all what you do with that extra money and stuff like that.
Right.
I wasn't. So the thing, like we talked about this briefly before, and just kind of going on to it. When you're in the moment making decisions and buying things and stuff like that, you're like okay with it. Then when you look at it from one area, you're like, oh, I don't know if that was the best. And you look at it again, you're like, oh no, it was fine. So when I had my house, I had a decent amount of credit card debt that I was focused on paying off, and I paid that off within like a year and a half after.
Where were you
owning
at?
here.
If you maybe want to give the people like you said you bought the house, had credit card debt. What was the
Yeah.
credit card debt, to give like an example?
It was stuff for the house. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you had like 5K?
it's
You
probably
paid-
like, I'd say like 3,000, 4,000.
Okay,
But
so you
yeah,
paid it
actually
off in a
5K is
year.
probably not that bad.
Right.
Yes.
So you paid it off immediately, pretty much. Well, over
Yeah.
a year. It's not immediately, but which is a great idea in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, that's a great idea. And then, so overall, it's a good thing. But when you think about it, when I thought about it for a minute, it was like, so I paid that off, but I wanted to also make that extra mortgage payment every year to help reduce the mortgage payment. But because I was focused on getting that done,
Oh,
I didn't
Interesting.
do the mortgage payment. So you feel down and upset because you weren't able to do the mortgage payment, even though you still accomplished the feat of getting the debt paid off and
Right.
squared.
Small
You know
goals.
what I mean?
Small goals.
Yeah. So it's
So
like
you
you
paid
did one
13
thing.
months in a year, basically, for your mortgage. You paid an entire
that-
extra month of
Yeah,
mortgage.
that's what I'm definitely doing. I'm doing that right now.
So that was the
and
goal.
I full committed to that, but that was the goal from the beginning.
Right.
But it didn't materialize, you could say, until like this year. It finally
Right.
became like the financial goal at the top because I had gotten done all the other ones.
Yeah. Makes
Whether
sense.
So I guess like the big thing is just like, you figure out where you want to go, and then set out like your overall financial goals, then like what little things can you do first. So like we said, you get a house, you pay your college tuition off first. Do that by spending the money you save by not owning a house, by paying and then pay the tuition off with it.
Right.
And that's where renting things like that, where you're paying the fraction of the price, is good if you're by yourself. But if you have the opportunity to split, a mortgage, and you want to make that investment,
Right.
that's a good thing. Um, there's a lot also that I think goes into when you get a house that a lot of people I think don't realize. Buying a house is a big feat, and when
can
you
only
buy the
imagine,
house,
man.
you have to decide whether you're going for that long-term investment or if you're just trying to get a house almost.
So quick side note. Actually, my roommate just bought a house.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say where it's at or anything like that. He owns one in Iowa. Actually, he rents out. Well, he kind of like, it's not like a lease because he rents it. I don't know. Maybe that's a lease.
Yeah, at least,
So
yeah.
he leases it to this guy, but also lives
Mhm.
at the place I'm at right now,
Mhm.
and just bought another house. So what he's doing is basically he's letting the Iowa income come in, pay for the rent here
Yeah.
where we live, and then he bought another house, and he's going to be working on it for, let's say 3 months till he gets like because the house is at like that state where you're just like kind of fixing it up,
Yeah,
and you're
fix
kind of
it up.
he's
Yep.
making it livable basically.
Yeah.
And then obviously once he gets it livable, he's gonna move out and go there and then live there full time. He's gonna take that rent money that he's getting from Iowa, or the gentleman that lives in his house now in Iowa, and then
Mhm.
put it towards the house that he obviously just bought.
Mhm.
And that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's
Excuse me.
only in his 30s, man, and he's living, and obviously he works nearby. He doesn't work too far away. He just bought a car. And I talked to him very briefly almost every day. We talked over breakfast this morning about what he does to be financially free. And he's got a lot of wisdom, man. And it's great.
Mhm.
And then the other roommate I have is also very inclined to have multiple streams of income and to travel. I mean, he's in Colorado right now, and he does YouTube videos, and he did a podcast this week. He uploaded it on Friday for what he does, which is like microgreens and stuff like that, which is totally off topic. And I feel like when you learn from people, especially for me and you, learning from people that are older and financially, let's say, free,
Stable.
set,
Yeah.
it's very interesting to get that wisdom from people like that,
Mhm.
because they know probably more than us, let's
Yeah.
say, about that situation, and it's great.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the realistic game is definitely like a game. If you want to get into, it's definitely a good game. That's definitely, like you said about like renting out a house. It's definitely something that I'm currently considering when I pay off my house now, and when I finish school and look to hopefully I look and plan to move away from Ohio once I get my degree within the company and
Right.
work somewhere else. And the thing that I'm thinking about is, do I want to sell this house for the cash that I'll have to put towards either the new house or just investments, or do I want to keep it and then rent it out to somebody or something to have that cash flow?
Right. That's what my roommate was saying. He did that,
Yeah,
and he likes it.
it all depends how you want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to have that cash flow and then have the responsibility of keeping it tended and keeping things up to par there?
Right.
You know, that's
Mhm.
it's a good game, and then over time you can multiply the amount of income you have by having multiple places to rent out. Like
So
you said, he
basically,
has multiple houses.
what he said as well is, let's say he wanted to go to Iowa for a couple weeks.
Hmm.
It's on a plot of land. He owns the land and the house. He obviously
Mhm.
rents. Let's say he wanted to go to Iowa, instead of getting a hotel, he just sleeps in his car in Iowa. You know what I mean? He always has somewhere to go, at
Yeah.
least. You know what I mean? Obviously, you always go
Yeah.
home. His case, his parents unfortunately passed away when he was very young, and he has property in Iowa. He's gonna have property here, and he's got a cross country basically. He can do whatever. If he wants to
Mhm.
travel, he's set, and obviously he gets income from the place he used to own, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And he works a full-time job, gets good
Mhm.
money as well. So he's doing really well for himself, and I like talking to him about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's really good. And like I said, that's knowing people that have that knowledge, and it's like great. Being able to absorb it up and then actually do something with that knowledge, good.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely like thinking about that. Being able to start doing that kind of things when you're in your 20s by saving and then putting money aside towards projects like that is how you can set yourself up for financial success.
Right.
One thing that I wanted also, part of this discussion when we talked about, people getting married and like doing houses and already having kids almost at our age and stuff like that. That's great. That's a wonderful thing, wonderful experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say don't do that in a heartbeat, but definitely one thing that I learned from my family in particular, especially my parents, is once you start having a family and you commit, family's commitment, right?
Oh, totally.
Getting married, starting a family is a committed thing.
Yeah.
Once you start that, all of a sudden that first kid comes around, everything is focused about that kid. You have to succeed and provide for that person.
It kind of like almost sets you back, and it's hard. It's
you have
very
to put
sad
whatever,
to say that because it's a kid and you
created
created it.
for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want the best for him, and that's why I have such a weird. We could talk about this in another episode as well about kids. I would love to have a child eventually.
Yeah.
But like we both want to say, we want to have success before having a child.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that the child has its best, foot forward when he comes into this world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, like you said, like that. Once you have your kids and you have your family, your dreams and ambitions go on. You have to put your time into that. You can't focus on your career as much anymore. What you want to do, and you know what I mean.
Right.
You have to become more about that. So if you're established in your career or financially when you have start your family, you don't have to worry about it as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's where the multiple sources of income and all that can come into play. But what I want to say is that so you see a lot of people our age, getting married, starting, already having a family and all this stuff. A lot of people always say too when you're younger to travel a lot, which I don't deny, and stuff like that. But traveling is expensive, and one thing that I think part of today's generation, of course, a lot of things is a today's generation thing, is a lot of kids, like we said, live at home and don't have expenses until they're, older, we'll say. So they think they have a lot of disposable income, but until you pay off your college debt and all these other things, you don't really have as much disposable income as you think.
Oh, totally, completely. 100%.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're living at home and you're working, you're going to school, and you have money from working, right? And extra money besides what you're buying for your school and books and stuff like that, and you say, okay, I'm going to use this money and I'm going to go travel here, right? Have the experience. That's good. But
completely.
The question that I want to propose to that is, why don't you save that $1,000, save it, invest it into something, whether we talk about, like a real estate thing, money market, anything like that, to where then in 10 years, when you're 30 and, you're good to go, that money is going to be worth double the triple what it is now. And then instead of taking one trip now, you could take 3 trips then.
Interesting. I mean, I completely agree. Having pleasure with your life, let's say traveling is what you love to do, traveling. I find that same thing going to restaurants that are kind of above what I would normally do. You know what I mean? Like going to Chipotle is obviously one thing. Going to a really nice restaurant in a town over is something that I enjoy. Especially with the chef that I'm familiar with or know personally. Especially where I live, I know several of the high-end chefs that work in the industry, and I find that enjoyable. Having a drink, eating great food, experiencing, learning. I could almost put that with traveling. Obviously, traveling is awesome, but I have a weird thing about leaving home. Like I get homesick. I love sitting at my house or where I live and just relaxing. You know what I mean? I find that very enjoyable. And obviously for other people it could be like traveling, working abroad, studying abroad. They love to do that. I like reading sometimes. It just depends on what you like to do. And so when you say traveling, do you mean traveling as like a retrospective thing, or traveling to experience, traveling to get an education? What do you mean by that?
Probably just traveling for like experience and like recreational. Like you're not really
Okay.
no value
Like
added
leisure.
almost, besides like seeing things. You know what I mean?
Okay.
like obviously a lot of people equate traveling, which is what it is like you get to experience these things and see these different things, which is good, you know.
Hmm.
But it's about the value. When you're younger, I feel everything when you're younger that you should be doing is a value added thing. You know what I mean?
If you're not getting anything out of it, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why?
When you're
You know,
younger,
the
of
why.
course. You know what I mean? Like
Of course.
I really want to travel, but I'm committed to the idea and the belief that there's better things that I could be spending money on besides going somewhere right
Hmm.
now. If I can save it and invest it to make that money more in the future so I could do more trips then.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I have a
Instead of the one now.
huge dream to go to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost like I would literally I would literally drop everything if I had enough money to go live in Europe for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I'm doing, I would drop and just go live in
Yeah.
Europe for a month because that would be such an experience. And hopefully, I would hopefully work as well, which
Mm-hmm.
for me that would be important to get that food scene and work underneath some great people for my industry, but
Yeah.
also experience the culture. Man, you got to do it for the
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Yeah.
Um, I can name like 6 countries I would go to and live for more than a month. You know what I mean? It's just,
No, no, same here.
and when you travel in the United States, I feel like, what's the point? I mean, besides like national landmarks, you know what I mean? Like Niagara Falls, would love to do that just to see how cool it is. The Grand Canyon. Go to California. Obviously, you were just there.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It was good. Like I said, I
Was it
going off what you said about, I definitely think even traveling with the United States is like, that's definitely something that I would commit more to now because it's cheaper. And
exactly?
to what you're saying, you still get a lot of different culture experiences just by going anywhere within the United States because definitely America's a very diverse place. So
Like
you get different,
subcultures almost.
yeah, you get different vibes where you go. You know, the
Right.
atmosphere in California, especially where I was, way different than anywhere in
Were
Ohio.
you the lower or
Um,
the upper, or like in the middle?
lower,
So you okay? You're in Southern Cal. Okay.
yeah. And just like one thing for sure is that at least where I was at for the week I was there, everyone everywhere was just like really, really nice and like always like happy and
Right.
upbeat. Well, like in Ohio, like everyone's just assholes all the time. Like everyone's in such a shitty mood and everyone hates you and it's just
Interesting. I think I have a little different understanding or perspective on that. But I get it. I totally get it. I think a road rage is important or a huge thing in Ohio.
yeah, that maybe that's that. I think
Yeah,
maybe that's what I
but
was going more
I can
at.
only imagine in California the highways like during rush hour. You might as well just start walking to wherever you're going. You
Yeah,
know
it's
what I
pretty
mean?
bad. Traffic's pretty rough out there.
I couldn't even imagine that. Uh, but yeah, do you wanna talk about anything else before we wrap it up or?
No, I mean, we talked a lot about the financial stuff in your 20s, which is good.
Right.
You
I
know,
think we could
something.
do a little bit more maybe next episode or another episode talking just about financial. We were just we were ironing out all the details today.
Yeah, we were
Um,
scraping the surface of what like is a very, very like depth, broad thing when it comes to all the different things you could do.
yeah, I'm just glad we did it, man.
Yeah,
Honestly.
just like I said, definitely the big thing for me and the big thing for me, especially with this podcast, is that you know when you're younger, you have to kind of make things happen. You
Of
want to
course.
make things happen
Of
because you don't
course.
have any responsibilities. You don't have anyone depending on you for things,
Mhm.
and the freedom that you have with that is something that until you lose that freedom, you don't realize that it's really there.
Of course.
Um,
I like that.
and then once you set yourself up, then you can create the freedom for yourself in the future because of how you set yourself up in the past.
I think that leads
And
right into the word, man. The word that I
oh yeah,
self actualization.
self-actualization,
Self actualization.
self-actualization. So another thing that we want to do with this show is either at the end, the beginning, or throughout, cover like a word, a phrase, a quote, something. You know, quotes are something that I'm very big in. Same with like
Right.
impactful words and stuff like that. So like I said, actualization. You know, it's a big thing when you're younger to like find that about yourself
Mm-hmm.
and then go out there and make it happen when you find out what it is. You know what I
Right.
mean? You could being happy and successful in life is about finding what you enjoy doing and what you're passionate about and then actually like doing that.
Right.
Um, and until you
Uh,
dabble in things, you might not know what it is or find out what it is.
Exactly. And the definition for that word specifically, I learned that today on the radio. I heard that and I wanted to tell Ryan. Is the realization of fulfillment of one's talent and potentialities? Potentialities. Sorry. Especially considered as a drive or need present in everyone, which is a great word for today's episode, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta dream big and then actually do it instead of just think about it.
Can't express any more happiness to actually finally being able to commit and do a podcast. Something that I've wanted to do for a while, and in today's world, it's like a big thing, and it's just like really cool to do. And the community that you can create around it is really cool too, and I'm very excited for what the future will hold.
Of course. I just heard on Joe Rogan's podcast, it's over $1 billion industry now in little less than 5 to 6 years when it started happening. Obviously, smaller scale a couple years ago. But now everyone and their brother has a podcast.
Yeah, everyone wants to do a podcast.
Some people have multiple, believe it or not. Some people do co-hosts or hosts on multiple covering different topics. This one's going to be mainly about everything.
Yeah.
What would we say, pop culture?
Yeah, like I said, pop culture is a very good one.
Culture, I heard also.
Yeah, like you said, any stuff from, we've got news, entertainment, video games, all business, life and success stuff, But that's the first three things are all pop culture, and then the other stuff's more, we'll say, self-development, personal development kind of stuff. But it's still all encompassing. And
so are we gonna genre every episode, or are we just gonna kind of go, you know what I mean? So people know where to find us in the genres, or just follow us on socials, and then you'll get it from there.
We could probably come up with something for genres, but for now, just hit up this. And the episode titles will always have
what it's about
in the episode. Yeah,
the clickbait.
Yeah, the clickbait title.
Awesome.
So yeah, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening, whether it was on the live show or the audio video portion. It was great having everyone, and we will talk to everyone in the next one.
Ryan's socials are on screen underneath mine. Mine are all the chef. His is mainly around his name, Sinich, and Ryan. And our actual socials for the podcast are above everything. Follow on all socials. We usually do what, Sunday? We're doing Sundays?
Yeah, probably try to do Sunday shows. Best day seems to work for us, but
I like
definitely
Sundays.
have one every week. So
yeah,
hit up the the YouTube for the video version. We're gonna get the audio version out there as well, with links to that. And then follow the socials for updates of shows and when we're going to go live and stuff like that.
And you should get a notification if you hit the bell. Obviously, if you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, we're going to... I did a story today on my Instagram when we went live. I did post a tweet. We'll hopefully get Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram on our podcast accounts up and running. We'll do a notification on there. Obviously, if you follow the stream on Mixer, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, you will get a notification as well. But yeah, that's awesome, Ryan. Hell yeah, man. It was good. I didn't mean to swear, but it was a good podcast today.
It was a good time. All right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch everyone later.
Have a good day, guys.